honor to have you introduce me, and I hope that all of you get a chance to meet Mark during the course of this convention. He is going to make an outstanding member of the House of Representatives. As he explained, we are long-term friends, and I've got to see him do incredible things, and couldn't have been more proud to have him as my state representative for the past 14 years, serving us very capably. I also want to especially acknowledge Jason Ray, who's here today, who, Jason, when he first joined the DNC representing Wisconsin, was the youngest ever to serve on the DNC, and we're proud to claim him as one of ours. I bet he's probably still, 4 years later, 8 years later, the youngest member, or one of the youngest members of the DNC, but we are very, very proud of Jason Ray. I also want to acknowledge the hard work and effort that went into all of you who are here serving as delegates and alternates. This is not my first Democratic National Convention. I am a veteran of a few before. And I remember earlier days of this caucus, and we wouldn't have needed a room nearly this size, and we would probably have known each other all on a first-name basis by the end of the convention week in those earlier days. And I think the sheer numbers speak volumes, but I also want to say that you're making a difference by standing up and running as delegates and alternates. Hopefully, many of you, put out a press release in your community newspaper and allowed others in your community to know that you were heading to the convention, both as proud members of the Democratic Party, but proud members of the LGBT community. So thank you for making that difference. The sheer size of this caucus is but one example of the progress that we've made towards equality. And certainly the words in our platform are another this year, especially in striking contrast to those in the Republican platform. Now, there's a few things that we have not yet accomplished, a few glass ceilings that we have not yet broken through, and of course one of them is having an out LGBT member of the United States Senate. And I might add that the state of Wisconsin has never sent a woman to the United States Senate. But I introduce these topics because I think we know why it matters. But I think it goes, that it's important to stress why it matters. I think about the fact that having a seat at the table matters. None of us check our life experience at the door when we walk into work or walk into a room as if it were a coat check, and we could leave it out. We bring our life experience with us, and it informs our decisions, our choices, the votes that we cast as members of Congress. And when you're not in the room, I think it's fair to say that the conversation is about us. If you're outside the room, they're talking about you. If you're in the room, they're talking with you, and that changes everything. Has another way of putting it. She says, Tammy, that's not how we say it down here. She said, if you're not at the table, you're probably on the menu. But that's about the substantive impact we make. I do not want to underestimate the symbolic impact of all of you as delegates and alternates, of those of us who have sought public office and sometimes won, and for what we're seeking to do this election cycle. There's a powerful symbolic effect. It's like a ripple effect. And sometimes it's been brought home to me when I've gotten the letter from the young person in a not too hospitable community who says, I'm interested in public service. I'm passionate about serving my community, but I just came out, and I'm not sure what the future holds. You, through your participation in public service, in the public spotlight, make a difference every day. You'll probably never know the full difference you make. Since I'm at a convention, I just have to add a story of my own. You know, I said I'd also break a glass ceiling as being the first woman from Wisconsin. Now, it'll date me, but I graduated from college in 1984. A newly minted political science math major from Smith College. I moved back home. Oh, there's Colonel Smithy's here. I moved back home to my hometown of Madison, Wisconsin. Got my first efficiency apartment. It had the mattress on the floor, the lovely pan that my aunt and uncle gave me for my graduation gift on the stove, and on that little partition that separated the kitchenette from the rest of the room was my TV set. And I watched the 1984 Democratic Convention. And I watched Geraldine Ferraro cross that stage, accept the nomination as Vice President. And I'm a tough woman, I don't get choked up very easily, but I had tears streaming down my cheeks because at that moment I realized I can do anything. We can do anything. Let me just tell you a little bit about the race in Wisconsin. And you know, I've been on the campaign trail now for 15 months. Our senior senator, Herb Kohl, announced his retirement in May of last year. But there's been a very competitive, ongoing four-way Republican primary until recently. And so I had the ability to travel the state and listen. People are furious in Wisconsin about the disconnect between what they see happening and on the agenda in the House of Representatives and what they see in their own lives. Seeing us almost default on our debt obligations, seeing us almost shut down the federal government twice. I come home and they say, birth control, Tammy. Really? Is that what you guys are debating? What about our lives? Isn't that something we settled in the 1950s and the 1960s? They've seen the House of Representatives take 33 attempts to repeal America's new health law. And they say to me, Tammy, do your colleagues get it? And I have to say, well, there's quite a few of them who don't. Second thing I hear all over the state of Wisconsin is about people's real struggles. People are hurting. It used to be that you could work hard and play by the rules and get ahead. But that's not happening as much, and people are struggling. And they want their case to be taken to the U.S. House and the Senate. And the House, which is Tea Party controlled, isn't having any of it. They want simply someone who is going to go to the United States Senate and fight for them. Not for Wall Street, not for the big banks, not for the big insurance companies, not for the Tea Party, but for them. That, quite frankly and quite simply, is what I've always done. Now, 3 weeks ago, Wisconsin's partisan primaries took place. And the Republican primary in the U.S. Senate race presented Wisconsin voters with a pretty clear choice. Tammy versus Tommy is one way of putting it, but there's a number of others. And just like Paul Ryan's selection as vice president helped crystallize what America's choice is. We have clear choices, we have stark choices, and when it all boils down to it, I think it is pretty simple. That when you work hard and play by the rules, you should be able to get ahead. But an election is about whose rules, who writes them, and for whose benefit. And that is where you'll find the differences between Tammy and Tommy. And that's where you'll find the differences between our president and the Romney-Ryan ticket. That's what it all boils down to. That's why we are all here as Democrats. So I get the honor of addressing the convention on Thursday night. I'm so a little sneak peek, because last week in Tampa, you heard from a lot of Wisconsinites. Our governor, Scott Walker. You heard from the RNC chairman, a Wisconsinite named Reince Priebus. You heard from the vice presidential nominee, Paul Ryan. So what I have in store for all of you is a little bit more about the Wisconsin I know, where fairness is our guidepost, and where, once again, when we work hard and play by the rules, we'll be able to get ahead. I just want to end by saying that running for Senate is an amazing experience. It is exciting, it is exhilarating, it is challenging, sometimes tiring, and sometimes a little lonely. But whenever I have one of those moments, I remember all of you. And I am never alone. I am never alone. Thank you for your support.
It's TammyBaldwin.com. Give deep and often.